Today on the Chat and Chew Show.
The cute stuff doesn't work. Like I used to think like, oh, let me just get my eyebrows done. He ain't gonna be mad at me no more. But like, no, you have to talk about the things. Like he'd be like, okay, he's like, I'll be trying to be cute, like, oh, no, sorry. He's like, no, like let's talk about it. And I'm like, okay, so the tactics don't work. Like you gotta bring your full self to the relationship. And I think the earlier you bring your full self to the relationship, the better.
That's good. That's real good.
Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our conversation with Shanell, Kalin, Elwood, and Betty on finding and keeping true love.
So right now, what we want to talk about is that work that you have to put in and ask these four for their advice to any couple, either if they're starting out or if they're in marriage, whatever advice you have, the top 3 things that you must do. Which couple wants to go first?
I say let them go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the top 3 things that
That couples should do. Your top 3, it could be think words of advice for any couple, whether they're starting out or in the midst of it.
like couples, like we're talking about like in our situation as well. Like okay. Yeah. So can I go first? No, you go first.
Okay, communication.
Yes.
Communication.
Yes.
I think that's like wrapped up in like don't shy away from conflict and don't shy away from hard questions or conversations. I don't know if that's 3, but I think like people when they enter relationships, they try to be cute. They're like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite color? What you like to eat? Like it's like, okay, but when stuff gets real and you don't know how that person communicates, you don't know how that person handles conflict, and then the couples who are like, we never fight, it's like, okay, because like we were saying, like by nature, when you're bringing 2 people together who are from completely different lives and you're trying to merge it into one, I mean, even in the process of courtship, like there are things that are going to come up, and if you ignore those things and internalize those things, then if they don't come up now, they're gonna come up later. And so I had to be okay with like asking hard questions, or even when we're upset with each other, actually saying like, I'm mad at you because, instead of like, it might be me, it might just be me and I gotta work. Like that's such a false, a false thing to be. It's just me. Let me work it out, and you know what I mean. But I've literally had to learn how to say like, I'm upset with you because blah blah blah, and then we're able to have constructive conversations around, okay, what works for you? This was my interpretation, and it makes it way more productive as you're in courtship to work those things out early.
Yes. So communication is so important, and people like. I hear a lot of people say like, I just want a guy that just communicates well. And it's like, but it's like, when things do get rough, it's like it's avoided. Like when it's conflict that happens, it's like, I just don't want to talk about it right now. It's like, yeah, but you will 3 months from now if you don't address it. So, it needs to
and the cute stuff doesn't work. Like I used to think like, oh, let me just get my eyebrows done. He ain't gonna be mad at me no more. But like, no, you have to talk about the things. Like he'd be like, okay, he's like, I'll be trying to be cute, like, oh, sorry. He's like, no, like let's talk about it. And I'm like, okay, so the tactics don't work. Like you gotta bring your full self to the relationship. And I think the earlier you bring your full self to the relationship, the better.
That's good. That's real good.
I think one of the things I'm kind of piggybacking is that you have to be vulnerable. And that is like super scary, especially if you've come from a trauma or traumatic relationships, to allow yourself to be like this. Okay. It's really hard. Now I'm an introvert. I know Shanell is too, but as an introvert, I mean, you rather just stay in your head. You just would be in your head about everything and not, no, I'm okay. You don't want to really talk it out. But it sounds like Kalin, who is like Elwood, is like, no, we're going to talk it out. I'm like, don't want to talk it out. Yeah. Give me a moment.
Always. Yeah. So I'm like learning how to be patient and let her process her thoughts so that like, we can talk about it when she's ready. Because if she doesn't process her thoughts, it's not gonna make no sense. It's just gonna, she's just gonna be saying words and
Trying to come up with some stuff.
right. Hey, remember, Mom, when I was younger, you'd be like, make it up.
I know. So Kalin used to, when he was little, he would be asking me like 1,000 questions. And I'm like, I don't know. And he would like make it up. He just wanted me to tell him anything. Right?
I love it.
Yeah.
The three things, is
You
it?
guys have other?
I think there were several things within the one thing. So I think
I heard be yourself too. Like you have to bring your full self to the table.
Yeah,
I like that.
And vulnerability is very important as well. Like being vulnerable when you feel comfortable to. I think you communicate early, but be vulnerable when you're ready. Like I think you need to discern if this person is healthy or not, and when you're ready, don't force vulnerability because that can be awkward.
I like that.
When I was 5, like my dog ran away. It's like don't force it. Just like let it. I have abandonment issues because my dog left when I was 4. It's like,
Kalin, I like how people sound to you.
right.
But I do. It's funny. I like what you guys are saying because also I liked earlier when Shanell you were saying you text Kalin and said, "Is it okay if I text you multiple times today?" And so it's almost like you have to even communicate about how you communicate as well. So that's cool. So Betty and Elwood.
So it's the three things that people must know or must do or what?
All of it.
All of that. I'm sorry. Specifics matter to me. I just think one of the what causes failure in marriages, in relationships, is a false understanding of love. I really believe that. I just because so much of what people deem as love is connected to affection. And so when the affection leaves, then, I don't love her anymore. I don't like, and so like, I'm in the midst of so many counseling sessions right now around the whole idea of I don't love her anymore, or he's not showing me love. And they're talking about affection. And I think the one thing that people need to do from the beginning is to understand what love really is, what's required in a relationship as it relates to love. And one thing I'm going to say, love is many things, but it's not self-seeking. But so there's like it's a double coin, it's like, it's not self-seeking. You have to look like I was talking to somebody and I said, man, love your neighbor as yourself, but I can tell that you love yourself so much that you're having a hard time loving your neighbor. Like you feel me? And so love is sacrificial. It's willing to say, I'm willing to even allow you to be right, seem right for a second, even when you're wrong. So it's giving up of yourself. That's one part of love. So I'm just saying, to really understanding love. And then I think the other thing is Michael Todd has a book called Relationship Goals. And I think that what happens is, and I haven't read the book, I've heard like very little, but I like the idea of being intentional about the goals in terms of your relationship. What are you really looking for? What are you striving for? After 32 years, I think what keeps us thriving and moving is because we still got goals. We still are planning for something. We're still trying to move to something. So we're not stagnant. And then lastly, I mean, I'm pulling stuff from the air right now.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
But just like really looking at the whole intentionality of your own self, like being intentional and not trying to change her to side with meeting my desire or my needs, but being intentional on the maintenance that needs to happen in my own personal life that solidifies our relationship and the love that we have for one another. So I'm sorry, I kind of feel like I went all over the place.
No, it was just a little bit of a mic drop moment. I just felt like. No.
Can I add one, and this will give us 4?
Oh, I'm sorry. I took them all. I'm so sorry.
He's like,
I thought we get 3 each.
no.
Bonus round. Go ahead, Betty.
I remember this young lady came to me, and she was like, I don't want to be with my husband no more. In fact, she had a boyfriend already. And like, he don't love me, he don't treat me right and all this. And so I started asking a few more questions, and come to find out, she was like, he be buying me gifts and taking me on trips and stuff, right? This other guy though that she was with, he was showing her attention and and spending time with her and all this. And what it made me discover is that they didn't know each other's love language. And I don't know if you ever heard of the 5 love languages before. He's buying her gifts and taking her on trips because that's the way he is expressing love. And she didn't receive love that way. This other guy was spending time with her. That's how she received love. And so I think that's another one that will be helpful, because I can feel like you don't really love me because you don't take out the trash, because mine is acts of service. Right. I don't think you love me because you don't do that kind of thing. And just finding out what each other's love language is, I think it'll eliminate a whole bunch of stuff, because you're like, oh, he's not taking out the trash because he don't love me, he just is not taking out the trash, or whatever, that kind of thing.
I think it's so great that we have like tools nowadays to like really help people like identify stuff like that. And like the first, like when you were saying that, like just in my mind, I was like, if people knew that these tools were out there, like their relationships would be so much better. Like, and there are some people who do have the tools, but they don't apply it and they're suffering for it. And it's just like, man, I just wish people could get this. Like, cause we did the love languages very early. There's actually
apology language.
There's an apology language that we like did a quiz thing on, and we know each other's apology language.
Wow.
It's just all this different stuff. Like we're reading together. It's just all these tools so that we're setting ourselves up well so that we can be successful together in the future. I think that would be another one for me as well.
Hey, Roxanne, I just want to say one. That's so good. I want to hear more about the apology language.
Well, ways to apologize. Yeah, it's good.
It's 4 or 5. Yeah.
4.
Okay. I'm taking that. And once we get off this, I'm gonna go take that.
See, I think that I think one of the most hurtful, haunting things of relationships is when you spent years and years together, and then all of a sudden you decide, I'm ready to go, I'm do something else. And it, to me, it's so tragic. And because I'm a pastor, I live in the real world of that happens in the church and outside of the church. And that's why I think it's significant and important to really identify, to do the inspection of what love really is. Not what you expect, but what you inspect, And I'm just hurt and broken. I got a friend right now, he's going to leave his wife, and there's nothing that anybody can say to him
for another lady.
For another lady,
After 40 years.
Yeah, with and has grandkids now. Like when you see them, like you see, what are the I don't know. I'm so sorry. I want to just say this real quick. Like I had a chance to be with my grandmother and grandfather who was married for 60 plus years. You know what I'm saying? What would it have been like if granddad wasn't there for me? Like I'm who I am because of granddad. What would it have been like if I didn't have that opportunity, my grandmother as well? And for me, like legacy matters. Like what, this guy who I'm talking about, who was a pillar in the community, who has 2 sons and, and daughters and that. And I'm like, they're not going to reap the benefit of all the things that were done early on because they didn't finish, because he decided, and the woman didn't cheat on him. She's still beautiful, like all of this stuff. He just decided that I have affections for something else right now.
And and just to clarify, you feel like it's if he understood what real love was versus just that feeling. Yeah. Okay.
Completely.
Also, I'm sorry.
Can I just say why though, real quick?
Yeah.
Because the reason is because he has recalibrated love to mean affection and how I feel versus what I do.
And you know, I'm not in that space right, you know, at all. Like, but I think like it's important to be vulnerable with other men where you can say,
Yes.
man, there's this girl and there's something about this girl that just does something to me. And like before it even gets to a place where you're saying, okay, I'm gonna leave my wife now. Like from the jump, like I think if you're a minister, whatever, if you're a man in general, you need to have people that you're honest with about what's really going on.
So key.
Yes.
So key. Everybody don't need to know your business, but somebody needs to know most of your business.
Yes.
That's real. That's real.
But they'll be able to talk you off the ledge. Like if
you want to be talked off the ledge. Some people don't want to be talked off the ledge. That's the problem.
Some people are willing to neglect their whole legacy because of their feelings, their temporary feelings. You know?
Yeah.
This is good, y'all. When we gonna do this again?
Oh.
This is so good. If you are watching at home, I actually really suggest that you rewind and watch it again, because I feel like there were so many nuggets in here that you will probably take notes on top of your notes. And I feel like a lot of stuff that was dropped in here will help you improve your whole relationship, not just a little bit. And so rewatch, please. But before we go, Kalin and Shanell, is there anything that you want to say? Let people know where they can find you, et cetera, et cetera.
I just wanted to add one more thing. In relation to what you were saying, Elwood, in the fact that like people marry for pleasure, and when the pleasure runs out, then you seek it from somewhere else. And I think when you're seeking partnership with somebody, that's why it was so key for us to like interview each other in the beginning, because I'm not only looking for somebody to fall in love with, I'm looking for somebody who I can partner with in all areas of life.
Good.
And so partnership is key. And then you got to know what you're partnering for. And that's why it's so important, even in your singleness, that you identify your purpose so that you know what you're partnering, what you're bringing to the table. So that's my last thought.
That's so good. So good.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, mic drop. That whole.
My hands are ashy.
Listen.
Right. What were you saying?
He got a new Instagram.
Yeah, so okay. By the time this comes out, maybe my old Instagram will come back. But if not, like it's so stupid, man. I got deactivated for no reason. Like it's crazy. So it'll be Kalin Jones 95. But if that don't work, it's going it'll be Kalin Jones Music, and that's the one that I'm rebuilding. So
nice.
That's me.
And I'm at the Shanell McCoy on Instagram.
Beautiful. Thank you guys for coming. And Betty and Elwood, where can we find you? What y'all
find me with her?
I'm at the Chat and Chew show.
I don't know, man. I'm so behind.
You don't know.
Oh my God.
Type in Elwood Jones.
You can find him at Landmark Church.
That's where you can find me at Landmark Church VA.com.
There you go.
.com, is that right? I don't even know.
Look at Landmark Church VA, Alexandria VA, right? We can narrow it on down. And and get some more of that wisdom that's popping up in this whole podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. Please remember to follow us at Chat and Chew Show on Instagram and on Facebook. And also, if you have not subscribed already, please do so by pressing the button. Press the bell if you want to get notifications of when we have new shows. I never know if it's down or up or sideways, but press it wherever it is. Thank you guys for watching, and watch it again. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by the Chat and Chew Company. Host Betty Jones, co-host Roxanne Brew, producer Vanessa Outland, and music by Elwood Jones.